Hey friends, let's talk casino comps and the 5 ways to get the best ones. First, what is a comp? A comp is something that the casinos reward you with for gambling in their casino. So say free rooms or discounted rates on rooms or buffets, whatever. There's all kinds of great things that you can get. The first tip is to sign up for the rewards card at all the casinos that you plan to play at. Now, it's free. You just go up to a little get wicket kind of thing and you sign up, and you usually get about 2 cards in case you lose one or want to share. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so now you got your rewards card. What do you do with that card? What you do with that card is you stick it in the slot machine every time you play. If you play table games, apparently you could give it to the pit boss and they'll track your gambling as well. So when you put it in the slot machine, it's tracking the time you're on the machine, the money you put in the machine, the money you put through the machine, which that we'll talk about. That might be different than you think. It's just tracking everything. And then what will happen is that either by snail mail or email or both, they'll send you some deals so that you get rewarded for your gambling. So you definitely want to get the rewards card. The more you spend, the better the comps, obviously. And generally, this is how all the casinos work. There may be variations, but overall, this is basically how they all base the comps. Okay, so now the money that you put through the machine might be different than you think. If you put, say, $100 in, and then you're playing for a while, and that 100 turns into 400, and then it turns back into 50 bucks, and then it's 100, and then it's 300, and I am sure you've been there before and you know what I'm saying. That is the money that you're putting through the machine. So your initial $100 investment is going to end up being far greater if you're on that machine for a length of time and you're having wins and losses, and that is what your ADT will be based on, average daily theoretical loss, and that is a reflection of the type of comps you're going to get. Okay, number 2, always use the rewards card when you're playing the slots or the tables, because otherwise the casinos will not even have a clue that you're playing. Now, I know I said always, but there is an exception. If you're popping into a casino for like 5 minutes, you're waiting for your buddy, you're whatever you're doing, you're not gonna be gambling, don't put your card in. Go ahead, put your money in and play. Just don't put your card in, because casinos have something called an average daily theoretical loss. What this is they average out what you're playing, how long you're playing, and for each day that you play. So if one day you play for a long time and you play like 500 bucks, and the next day you pop in for 5 minutes and play 20 bucks or 100 bucks, and then they're averaging things out, you can only imagine that that's going to cut that ADT in half or worse, and then your comps will be a reflection of that. So again, use your card always when you're playing, unless you're only popping in for a quick 5 minutes. Go ahead and play, just don't use your card. Okay, and number 3, always play on multiplier days whenever you can. The reason I say that is because if you went in one day on a non-multiplier day and you played 500 bucks, if you then went in on a multiplier day and it was 5 times, you would only have to play 100 bucks in order to get the same amount of points that you got when you played on the non-multiplier day and you had to play 500 bucks. So obviously, it's definitely worth your while to play on the multiplier days. That's probably the best tip, honestly. Okay, and tip number 4, try and play on one card. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so when you sign up for your card, usually you'll get 2 cards. And then when you go on a trip, usually you're going with like your partner, your mom, your sister, your brother, or somebody. And you probably each have your own cards and you play on your own cards. Well, if you actually just play on one of your cards, you each take a card for that day or that entire trip would be best, your comps are going to be so much better because it's tracking both of you and all the money you're putting in and all the time you're both putting in. Now, like I say, if it doesn't seem reasonable to do it for the entire trip and then use the other person's card for the next trip, might work if you're married or whatever. If it's just a friend, that might not work. So maybe what you want to do is just use one person's card one day and the next day use the other person's card. That way you both get good comps everything's great. So yeah, just try and use one person's card. It took me a long time to learn that. Okay, and number 5, if you have a specific casino you like to stay at, use the bulk of your gambling budget at that casino, because then you have the best chance of getting the best comps. Because if you're spreading all your money around throughout all the casinos, you're going to be making comps for sure. You're not going to be making really good comps like you would if you say 90% of your budget is at the property where you want to stay, that's where you spend it, and then use your 10% to walk up and down the strip, get the different cards, go in and out of the casinos and play. It's a lot of fun. I do it. But if there's a specific casino that you really want the comps at, you really like to stay at, spend 90% of your budget there. Happy gambling, and I'll see you in the next video.